Now we're going to get into red meat causing weight gain, fat gain, and or diabetes. This is the most horrific one to me because this is actually a big factor in the obesity epidemic. Protein plays a huge role in the obesity epidemic because it has been so villainized in our society. Okay, so let's chat about this. Remove this. This is probably the most important piece. This is probably the piece that you guys actually care about more than anything else because obesity is a huge problem, chronic disease is a huge problem, and I'm going to outline for you the amazing role that protein can play. Protein is basically magic when it comes to nutrition, okay? So we're going to talk about this. Now the myth is that red meat causes weight gain and or diabetes. There's a lot to this one because these myths get thrown around a lot by a ton of different camps. This isn't just vegans and vegetarians. Now, the vegan propaganda really went nuts with this after the fictional documentary film, What the Health, right? I'm sure you guys watched What the Health and were like, oh my God, this is crazy, Justin, what do we do? I know that because I got a boatload of emails about it, right? And then Chris Kresser and Rob Wolf and Dave Asprey and all the biggest names in this space had to come out and debunk this giant piece of shit that Netflix put out, okay? That's what happened. It's all been completely debunked. Now, in What the Health, they straight up claim that red meat causes type 2 diabetes and that sugar does not.
What?
Why would they do this? Because they're fucking morons. That's why. Straight up, okay? They are a group of grade A, genuine assholes. And I'm not kidding about this. I mean this seriously because if you look it up, some of the people that were behind the creation of What's the Health have actually gone to jail. They've been arrested for assault and battery. They have showed up to places where people eat meat. They have these pies where they sprinkle cayenne pepper on them and smash it in the meat eaters' faces. They try to get cayenne spice in their eyeballs. They want to injure them. They are total assholes. The only thing that I wish is that I was somewhere in public and that those filmmakers tried to put a pie in my face because it would be one of the greatest days of my life and some of the most fun that I've ever had on a random afternoon. Okay? But it's probably not going to happen. Anyway, I digress. These people genuinely lack even a base level understanding of human biochemistry. Even a base level. They know nothing about the human metabolism, okay? So the vegans claim that red meat gives you diabetes. And a lot of other camps, another camp that I'm going to name that drives me crazy, this is what I call Internet keto is a huge problem, in my opinion, for the obesity epidemic and for a number of other things, including inflammation, okay? So internet keto drives me nuts. These are the people that are like, go to Wendy's and eat ketogenic. Yeah, amazing, right? So that kind of stuff, okay? So internet keto does this as well. They will lead you to believe that excess protein somehow turns into glucose in the system and will kick you out of ketosis and make you fat. But then they'll tell you in the same breath that it's okay to drink feedlot heavy cream through a straw with every meal. More assholes, I tell you, right? But anyway, this is a real thing. It's called gluconeogenesis. However, protein is not just magically converted into glucose for no reason. Protein is converted to glucose based on the energy demands put upon the body, okay? So the body will convert protein to glucose on an as-needed basis through gluconeogenesis. Protein doesn't just magically behave like chocolate cake in your veins for no reason, right? Everyone's obsessed with protein's gonna kick me out of ketosis and I'm gonna gain body fat because I got kicked out of ketosis. It's ridiculous. This is internet keto nonsense, okay? Now, instead of me going into my opinions on this, I'm actually going to wrap this. I have a lot of notes here. I'm going to wrap this episode with studies. Studies on protein. And as you know, because I outlined at the beginning of this episode, red meat is hands down the most bioavailable way to obtain nutrients and amino acids. Proteins are amino acids. Amino acids linked together create proteins, okay? So if we're talking about protein studies, the best way for you to get that protein and the benefits yielded from consuming that protein is to consume red meat, period. Again, do yourself a favor, get yourself 100% grass-fed, ethically raised, pasture-raised animals, 100% grass-fed, pasture-raised. Do that. Find a farmer and that treats his animals well. Go ahead and do that. But we're going to talk about these studies on protein, and I highly recommend that you get this protein from red meat, okay? Now, throughout all of human history, humans have struggled to find energy, not protein, okay? So you guys have heard me talk about this before. There are really two classes of macronutrients. So we have protein and we have energy. Energy is fat and carbohydrates. Protein is its own thing, right? So yes, there are three macronutrients, protein, fat, and carbohydrates, but really it's protein and energy. Energy is its own thing. So throughout all of human history, all of our time as hunter-gatherers, right? Let's say 315,000 years or whatever it is. Throughout all that time, the biggest scarcity we have in our hands was energy. This is why agriculture came into play. We could always get our hands on protein because we would eat things that most of you would never dream of eating. We could eat snakes, we could eat bugs, we could eat rabbits, we could eat birds, we could eat deer, we could eat cows, we could eat lizards, anything. Turtles, right? Fish. You could always find protein. Protein was never really scarce for us, but energy was scarce. It was very difficult to come across a good amount of fat besides in red meat. Red meat's like the only, if you think about it, salmon and stuff like this, like fish, rabbit starvation. The term rabbit starvation comes from the fact that rabbit meat doesn't have much fat. If you try to subsist on it alone, you would die. So without fat, you die. That's the term rabbit starvation, okay? So energy was always a problem. Protein was never a problem. So agriculture came around to deal with the issue of not having enough energy. Now, in 2019, the problem is far too much energy. Fat and carbohydrates, okay? It's virtually all we eat here in America, thus the obesity epidemic. Now, the thing is, if you take an omnivore, we're all omnivores. We eat meat and we eat plants, okay? If you feed an omnivore carbohydrates and fat together, it will immediately get fatter. If you feed an omnivore protein without carbs and fat, it will immediately get leaner. Obesity is truly that simple. Let's not argue about biochemistry, let's not argue about calories, let's not argue about macros, none of that. That's it. Protein versus energy. Too much energy equals fat. Okay? That's the way that this works. And in my opinion, one of the biggest causes of the obesity epidemic in America is this unfounded fear of red meat. It's insane. Carbs and fat have two completely different storage components in the body. Okay? So glucose is stored in the body as glycogen. And then fatty acids are stored in the body as triglycerides. And this is considered adipose tissue. Sorry for my chicken scratch, right? So this is adipose tissue. Now, glycogen, here's the difference. Glycogen is water soluble. This is stored in the liver and in muscles, okay? Fatty acids are not water soluble, and they're stored in adipocytes, in adipose tissue. This is body fat. Glycogen is 6 times bigger. If we look at it molecularly, glycogen is 6 times bigger than fat. So if you think about it, this is why it is so easy to become obese and so difficult to become The Rock and be super jacked and put a bunch of muscle on your frame. This is why, because of the way that it's stored. It's stored in muscle and liver cells, and it's 6 times bigger. You can fit the same amount of energy in a 6 times smaller space, a space that's 6 times smaller when you're talking about fatty acids, okay? So this is why it's so crazy. This is why obese people look the way they do, and they can just keep growing and growing and growing. It's kind of crazy. Now, glycogen completely controls which energy substrate is being burned in the body. If glycogen stores are full and you're still eating glucose, you have to burn that glucose because you can't store it. It's too big, okay? If you have less glucose, you will burn fat. I did this in the basics, back to basics fat loss. I did the whole gas tank analogy. There are 2 gas tanks, okay? This is why the combination of fat and carbs together is the most obesogenic diet on planet Earth. Think Krispy Kreme donuts, right? Pure fat and carbohydrates, pure energy. You're gonna get fat eating that stuff, everybody. I promise you, okay? Now here's the thing. So now I just had to spell that out for you. Protein versus energy, how glucose is stored in the body, how fatty acids are stored in the body, okay? It's completely different. Fat soluble, water soluble, protein and energy. Fat and carbs, big problem for obesity, okay? So let's talk about this. In the last 50 years, as the obesity epidemic has exploded, protein intake in America, average protein intake, has been on a steady decline. So over the past 50 years, we have a protein intake moving from about 14% down to about 12.5%. When I say percentage, I'm talking percentage of total daily calories, okay? So right now, at the peak of our obesity epidemic, about 12.5% of daily calories are coming from protein. Now, I'm going to show you something to give you some context. For quite a while, I have been experimenting with this carnivore type thing, and even prior to carnivore, I was experimenting with what would be considered a very high carbohydrate diet. A very high protein diet, I was doing 55% of calories from fat, 35% of calories from protein, and 10% of daily calories from carbs. Then I started experimenting with carnivore, but I still kept that protein at 35%, with the rest of my calories coming just from dietary fat, okay? So let's talk about this. Right now, as of my in-body body measurement this past Monday morning, I am 8.1% body fat. I am eating 35% of my total daily calories from protein. 35% protein, I am at 8.1% body fat. This is the lowest body fat that I've ever been as an adult, okay? Now, let's give you more context. In America, the average body fat percentage is somewhere between 30 and 40% body fat. Average in America, okay? Average. 30 to 40% body fat. And we just concluded that the average American is getting 12.5% of their total daily calories from protein. So I want you to just look at this. I am eating almost 3 times as much protein, and my body fat percentage is 4 to 5 times lower than that of an average American. That's interesting stuff, isn't it, everybody? What's going on here? What grade do you have to be in to figure this out? This obesity epidemic's a real mystery, everybody. Real big mystery, okay? Now, for the studies. We're going to move on from this and my smart-ass snarkiness, and we're going to get into the studies. I'm going to wrap this episode with studies. We're just going to talk about studies of protein intake, really daily caloric intake. Now, most of these studies, actually, I'm looking at all of them right now. Most of them are this, so I can just write this. So most of these are comparing 15% daily calories from protein versus 30% daily calories from protein, okay? So most of these studies are comparing 15% protein from calories and 30% protein from calories. The first study I'm going to tell you about compared 15% protein to 30% protein ad libitum. This means as many calories as you want. You can eat as many calories as you want as long as you maintain 30% daily calories from protein for one group and 15% for the other group. Results: the high protein group ate less, lost more weight, and had lower hunger scores, which means a significant impact on your hunger hormones leptin and ghrelin. They also had far fewer cravings when surveyed, okay? Now, let's move on to pre-diabetics. This was a study done just with pre-diabetics, and this one is staggering, okay? So in pre-diabetics, they compared 15% protein to 30% protein. Ad libitum, as many calories as you want, just maintain these macronutrients, which means the fat and carbohydrate macronutrients are also controlled for, right? What happened in pre-diabetics? What the Health documentary? High protein group lost more weight, and the high protein group had a 100% pre-diabetes reversal rate. A 100% pre-diabetes reversal rate. But, according to the vegans, red meat causes cancer, quote unquote. Causes diabetes, okay? Think about that. A 100% reversal rate of pre-diabetes. The people doing the study were baffled. They were like, wait a minute, because prior to that, there had never been a study that had a 100% pre-diabetic reversal rate, okay? 30% daily calories from protein, 100% pre-diabetes reversal, but according to the vegans, red meat causes diabetes. This is nonsense, okay? So let's get off of pre-diabetics and talk about full-blown type 2 diabetics. This is another study done just with type 2 diabetes subjects, comparing 15% protein to 30% protein. Eat as much as you want, calories ad libitum, right? The high protein group lost more weight. They also had lower blood sugar levels. They also had lower triglycerides, and it measured a 40% drop in glucose levels. How in the world could somebody look at this data and try to claim that red meat causes diabetes? This is absolutely baffling and dishonest, okay? This is crazy. 30% protein, beat the 15% group again. Lost more weight, lower blood sugar levels, lower triglycerides, 40% drop in glucose levels. Crazy, it's like magic, right? Now, we got a couple more. Another study, this was on weight loss management. So we've talked about the roller coaster, right? Everybody knows the weight loss roller coaster, up and down, up and down. Oh, I lost all the weight, I gained it back. We talked about the Biggest Loser study, all this weight regain nonsense, right? So they did a study just on weight loss maintenance. They took two groups that had lost weight. They took the one group and kept their diet the same. The other group, all they did, everything else controlled for, everything else the same, they added 48 grams of protein per day. This would be like 1.5 chicken breasts or something, right? Now, mind you, that's an additional 192 calories per day just in protein. 4 months later, the higher protein group had 50% less weight regain. That's staggering. 50% less weight regain by doing nothing except adding 48 grams of protein a day. Again, this is like magic, everybody. Okay? Now, I want to talk about the internet keto people. Okay? We're going to talk internet keto people because this is very important. Traditional ketogenic people, internet keto, they'll tell you to keep your protein from 15 to 20% daily calories from protein. You can't go over 20% because it'll kick you out of ketosis and you'll get fat. Right? Internet keto. Listen to this. They took low carbohydrate people specifically. One low carbohydrate group had 15% daily calories from protein, again 15, and one low carbohydrate group had 30% daily calories from protein. They tracked them for a year. And remember all the times I say Clovis is not keto and how much the low protein advice from internet keto pisses me off. Here's the results. 1 year later, the low carb group with 30% protein, which mind you is the Clovis protocol that I give you when you sign up for a custom nutrition plan, 30% daily calories from protein. 1 year later, the low carb 30% protein group performed better on every single metric that you could possibly measure. Weight, body fat, insulin, triglycerides, HDL, hunger scores, emotional eating, everything. The 30% protein group destroyed the 15% protein group. They didn't lose a single category. Not one. What are we talking about here? The next time somebody tells you Clovis is keto, promptly kick them in the junk. I'm just kidding. I'm not advocating violence, everybody. That was a joke. Ha ha ha! Right? This is crazy. Alright, so one final study. Too much protein. Okay? Too much protein. There's actually no such thing as too much protein. There are studies out there in athletes that have eaten as much as 600 grams of protein a day with no negative side effects whatsoever. Now again, I can cite all these studies for you guys in the show notes. I can put a collection together. If you'd like me to, I can just do a full-blown page that's just full of why red meat is good for you, right? There's actually no such thing as too much protein. It would be virtually impossible to kill yourself or have really negative impacts happen. What you'd have to do is have some kind of elixir where it's just like protein or like 1 gram of liquid water. One ounce of water somehow has 200 grams of protein in it, and you were to chug 100 ounces of water, and like it just would be impossible to do, right? You have to do it with synthetic protein. It'd be insane. So there's really no such thing as too much protein, okay? There isn't. So I want to outline this for you. Now there's a caveat here. I'm going to give you one caveat that this particular study was the effects of high protein on resistance trained individuals. These people were just resistance training a few times a week, which I recommend for Clovis people as well, unless you come to me and you're super overweight and dealing with inflammation and all these things. But eventually, as you guys know, for optimal health, I'm a big fan of resistance training, okay? So that's the one caveat. This study was done in people that were resistance trained. But I'm going to read you the study, okay? Now, first I want you to keep in mind, the RDA, the recommended daily allowance in America for protein, okay? So RDA equals 0.8 kilograms per kilogram of body weight. Okay? So the RDA is 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. So what this study did is they took their subjects and they fed them 4.4 grams per kilogram of body weight. 4.4 grams of protein per kiloweight of body weight. That's a lot of protein. That is 5.5 times the RDA of protein. 5.5 times the recommended amount of protein in a standard American diet. 5.5 times. That's a lot, everybody, okay? Now, fat and carbs, your energy macros, were controlled to be identical. So the only difference, everything else is the same except 5.5 times more protein. And the training volume was controlled to be identical. Everything identical, okay? Guess what happened after 8 weeks? Zero change whatsoever in body composition. To quote the study directly, after 8 weeks, quote, there were no significant changes over time or between groups for body weight, fat mass, fat-free mass, or percent body fat, end quote. Why does this matter, okay? Now, we're just talking neutral. This is zero change. 5.5 times more protein, okay? 5.5 times more protein. Zero change. Why does this matter? Because we live in America, and everybody still thinks they need to burn calories to lose weight. We still have this calories in, calories out model. Look at this. We're talking calories in, calories out, okay? People still debate this stuff. If we look at this study, let's say the subject fed 4.4 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight was my size. I weigh 157 pounds right now, okay? 157 pounds, 8.1% body fat. That means if I followed these recommendations, I would be eating an additional 1,014 calories per day just in protein. And after 8 weeks, no increase in body weight or body fat. What? Are we kidding? This whole thing, you gotta lose 3,500 calories to burn 1 pound of body weight. You gotta burn it, and if you eat 3,500 extra calories, you're gonna gain a pound. 1,014 extra calories a day for 8 weeks. No change in body weight, no change in body composition. What are we talking about? This is insane, everybody. So listen to me. When I tell you constantly learn, unlearn, relearn, learn, unlearn, relearn, I mean it. Okay? Sure, I know that most of you kind of take my advice, but the brainwashing runs deep, and I know it runs deep because I do things like post a picture of my 1.75 pound prime rib on the bone on a plate as my dinner on Monday night, and I know that people lose their shit about this, right? There are some of you where part of you in the back of your brain is looking at it going, oh, that just can't be healthy. That just can't be healthy. It's just so much red meat. I don't know, I just can't be healthy. You guys forget that I do a blood draw every 3 months. A blood draw every 3 months to know what's going on exactly in my body. It's cool, you can admit it. I know, sometimes you see the stuff I do and you think I'm crazy, you still think I'm a psychopath, and you still think that your in-law, who somehow has a nutrition degree, decides that she wants to tell you that all that fat and protein is going to give you cancer and heart disease, right? Learn, unlearn, relearn. This is critically important, everybody. This is one of the most staggering studies I've ever seen in my life. An extra 1,014 calories of pure protein per day, zero weight gain, zero body composition change over 8 weeks. How many calories is that? What? What are we doing? Actually, I have a calculator because I need it, okay? So we have 56 days. That's an extra 56,784 calories, everybody. I hope I did that math right. It'd be embarrassing if I didn't. I'm really bad at math. But anyway, I'm telling you guys, you can admit that sometimes you think I'm crazy. I get it. I am kind of crazy. I'm kind of a psychopath, right? It took me years of my own research, years to get all the nonsense government mainstream programming out of my head. I still thought that calories were the answer. I still thought that all that protein can't be good for me. Every time I put MCT oil in a smoothie, I was like, God, I'm just drinking so much fat. Oh my God, really? They're telling me I'm not going to get fat. I don't believe them. I don't believe them, man. I'm drinking fat through a straw. I'm going to get fat. You know, it took me years to get over this shit. I know it's going to take you guys years to get over it too. Don't worry, you'll get there if you stick with me. Perseverance. I know there are people beating down your door every day telling you that you're wrong for your crazy Clovis diet after you've lost 60 pounds and they somehow think you're a nutcase, right? It's insane, okay? Freedom is just around the corner, okay? As long as you are willing to unlearn first. Unlearn. Unlearn. Learn. Unlearn. Relearn. Hit the share button. Share this on your timeline. Tag your friends who need to see this, who need to know about protein. So you guys are awesome. Thank you so much. I've read Meat Myths. I'm Justin Nault. I'm out. Have a good night.